Hello everyone. Today we're going to do a little how-to video on making some what I would call primitive mud type structures. Now, usually when you think 40K or science fiction, you're thinking about the high-tech sci-fi type terrain or desert devastation or ruins, that kind of stuff. But historically, some of the earliest buildings were made out of some form of a mud structure. Taking mud, mixing it with straw and other fibrous materials. We're used to thinking in terms of adobe here in the U.S., southwest U.S., which is sun-dried adobe mud structures. In Middle East, you've got the sun-baked bricks, but it's not just for arid climates. Temperate and tropical as well can be done. In England, like Wales, there are, I believe they call it cob or clom is the I think the local term they use. Again, it's a mud construction. It's very early. Some of the first construction techniques use this mud, and the way you do it is you lay down a course of this mud composite with the fibrous material like straw or what have you into courses. Your layers. Once that dries, you do the next course and build it up over however tall you need it to be. You roof it with whatever structure you need. So, given that, I wanted to make a couple structures, well, not just a couple, quite a few structures for my Kroot. What I wanted to do was get a thematic board within a jungle environment, a Kroot village kind of thing going. So, that the setting would be invading a Kroot village. I found what I think is a very good representation. There's a lot of packing material you can use that has that kind of a mud brick texture look, a little less like stucco. So let's go down to the hobby shop and let's take our look at hobby shop, my workbench, and let's dive into it. Let's see what we can come up with. All right, let's go.
Okay, so this is the actual building that I worked on a couple years ago. Built. As you can see, doesn't require a whole lot of work to the form itself. I'll admit I do still have to go ahead and clean this edge up. I haven't put on a base. I was trying to figure a good way to do that on this particular piece because it is a little bit bowed. I just want to make sure when I mount it doesn't lose its appeal. But in this particular one, there what ended up being several structures raised up, because if you look at the way the material's built, there's a lot of locations for parts to set in, so you have a lot of low spots if you look at this from above. So what I decided to do is disguise that fact by putting a log roof over it. So you can do a lot of things like that. Even here's a opened up segment in the roof to put a ladder to get access to that roof area, so that this building is large enough to have its own ramparts. So what I want to do is I'm going to show you kind of basics of how to go about making these with a much smaller version. It won't require all this extra woodwork on it. Okay, so let's get ourselves set up and we'll start looking into this. Okay, here's a much larger version. In this particular case, there's no need to put woodwork on top, and this is a work in progress because it does have some open sides. I'll talk about that in a few minutes. But I do have all the firing ports listed or cut in, and I'll just, when I terrain up the base, that's how I'll mask these open spots. In fact, that is going to serve as the entrance to the structure. So, all right. So, how do you go about? Where do you get these? Well, the first thing, my favorite source, is you get a pair of them in a laser printer cartridge box. Okay, so the cartridge fits right in there, two halves, and they're very similar. This one actually has a hole in top, which is not a bad thing. That's where they'll act like a chimney or a place for smoke to escape. If you look on the bottom of both of these, it's flat all the way around. In this particular case, there's one opening. In this particular case, there are two, front and back. But otherwise, it's flat all the way around. That's what you're looking for. Trying to find a piece of this material. It's a fiber material that it's really easy to cut, but it has that very rough texture. Let's see if I can bring this up real quick. See that texture? That's what we're looking for to do this particular mud style building. We're going to go ahead and we're going to start with this one that's, you know, got everything flat all the way around except for what will be the doorway. And we'll put this one off to the side for later use. The very first thing you got to do when you get these is take off this edge part. That's, you're not going to use that. So you can use anything you want. You can use a straight blade or a pair of shears, whatever you're most comfortable with. You want to be careful and make sure, check inside so that as you look inside at the very bottom, you want to make sure there are no spaces where the central portion is touching the edge here, because in some cases they offer a little more rigidity by bridging that space a bit, and you're going to want to just be careful as you carve through there so that you don't tear it up. So it's really just a matter of taking your utility knife and just starting to cut through. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll get back to the video. Okay, in the interest of full disclosure, what I thought I would do is reveal the fact that in this particular case, though I planned on using the regular utility knife, I went with some heavy-duty. These are leather-working shears, because it's just a little. This is a little thicker than some of my previous examples, so just a matter of cutting through. But what I wanted to show is how to deal with this entryway. Okay. Now you're going to want to leave plenty of room around there, so you cut near it but not right on it, because you'll trim it up later. And you just want to leave enough gap. Go ahead and okay. And then here, this was a little thicker than other areas, so again, you're just going to trim this down. Alright. Okay. Alright. And there we go. Okay, now what I noticed now that I've cut this through is I found there's this little pink smudge. Don't know if you can see it real well on the camera, but it is not what I was expecting to run into. Don't know how well it shows up. So I'm going to have to actually do a little bit of dry brushing on this to kind of cover that up. No, actually there's a better way. It's a step I'll show you toward the end of the video that we cover that particular flaw up. So it doesn't show up too badly, but okay. So let's take a quick look at the next step. This next step is all about planning. Once you have the rough form cut out, you take a look at it and then picture how it would be used. Where would the whatever lives in it, what would they be doing? Where would they be living, and where would you put openings, like windows, for lack of a better term? All right. So one of the best ways to do that is actually get one of the miniatures that you expect to use, or in the model or in the game, to kind of show what kind of height. Now, this is going to be for Crute, but I happen to have an Eldar figure here, so you just place it next to it and get an idea for what level you're going to be at. So you kind of know where the windows need to be, roughly. Okay, this is planning, because now once you get inside, you'll notice that he's taller than the doorway. Now, in my particular case, with these being Crute, I look at that as a tactical decision. By forcing the opponent to stoop if they come in, you put them at a disadvantage. But you can also consider the fact that some of these structures could be built with a kind of the center dug out a bit, so the actual floor is lower than ground level. So there's a couple different ways you can do it, and you can also think of it as multi-story, depending on like some of the other ones I've built. This one though, we're just going to keep it a single story. We are going to assume that it is a flat floor, because all the way around it's pretty much a good height. You can fit 10 of these guys in there. That's a good small building size. So the next thing to do is just grab yourself a pencil. Doesn't need to be anything fancy. And then just kind of mark roughly where you're going to put it. Just a little line. I'm going to have a couple. These are just marking where they're going to be. I don't think I'll put one. Yeah, you know what? I am going to put one, but this one's going to be vertical. So the windows openings can be a couple different sizes, shapes. You can have square, which I don't particularly think would be a good look on this. Round, oval. In the case of these others, I've done half moons, where it's the sill is flat, but it's an arched top. So here I'm going to do the same thing. Put him. I'll just put a right there. And this one I am going to make kind of a semicircular. I haven't decided on the others, that's why I just kind of left them as a single straight mark. Alright, and back here, these are two separate walls, if you will, because of the different depths. So I think what I'll do is this will be another vertical one here. And then I'll put, let's see, I think, you know what, let's put one up here. Another vertical one. So there'd be some sort of a platform, which is kind of represented by this piece here. So you have, that'd be an internal platform maybe. And so maybe that's where the window should be. Alright, and then on this side, we would kind of just continue that. And then here, I'm going to keep it about the same. This one I'm going to do this way. Okay, so now I've got those marked. Now I'm going to decide the shape. So here, since this is vertical, I'm going to go ahead and make this kind of a small leaf shape. Okay, maybe see if that comes in there. Okay. Alright, change the. Hopefully that'll show up a little better now. Alright, yep, so there's a little leaf shape. I like that. That's kind of, I've taken that approach with some of the others. Here, same thing, I'll do another leaf shape. And by using pencil, there is the chance you can erase anything that may stray lines there. Okay, this one's vertical. Now for this one I already kind of did the half moon shape, so now it's just a matter of shading it in. Shading it in is extremely helpful to give you the visual cue of what is it going to look like on the model. And then you can edit from there, and also help you know how to cut a little bit more carefully. Now in this particular case, I think it looks really good. I'm not going to have anything up over the middle here. And it looks pretty good. So everything's marked out now. Got a couple fire ports per side, or fire points. Alright, so now you need to go with, the only way I've been able to figure out how to do this is using number 11 X-Acto blade, hobby knife. This allows you to get in there and saw it. So let me show you real quick how I'm going to go about doing it, and then I'll let you, I'll just go ahead and take care of that while you're, and I'll come back to it. So this is very tough material, so you want to definitely be careful. Don't go right in the center and kind of twist the knife, wiggle it until it starts going, and then slowly bring it in because you're going to slice through, okay, until it gets to the bottom of the mark, and you'll do the same thing until it gets to the top of the mark. And this is the advantage of using this blade, because as you push, it very slowly lengthens the cut. And so once you've done that, now it's a matter of just doing it in all 4 directions, because it slices well. And then you just kind of carve it out from there. And this can be tedious, but it's definitely worth it. And it's just a matter of carving out that hole. So, and as soon as I've done that, I'll get back and I'll show you what's what. Alright, there it is. All the window ports cut out. Now, looking back, I made a mistake when I laid this one out. That is actually too big for what I intended. But you know what? On the next one, I'll make it smaller. But I like the rest of them turned out. So here up top, there's 2 different, and they're not perfectly level. I kind of like that. Again, this is supposed to be a primitive structure. My Crute world would have these. That's what I'm thinking. All right, so basically with that, you know, if nothing, you can actually put this on the table if you want just a quick and dirty piece of terrain. But I want to kind of not necessarily take it to the next level kind of thing, but I do want it to be a little better as far as the way it looks, a little more finished. So, a couple things I'm going to do. The very first one is we're going to create a door covering. We're going to do it out of hides. So there's a video that you'll see. I've got a link to it here. I use green stuff to create hide blankets or whatever, you know, or accessories. So go ahead and take a look at that, and then you'll end up seeing it on this particular model. The other thing, though, that I'm going to do is we're going to, before I actually add that piece, because I don't want to get it dirty, is I'm going to go ahead and we're going to, quote, weather this. Now, we're not going to weather it with dry brushing and all that, though you could. There's plenty of texture. But with as deep as the texture is, the natural light often, you know, brings that texture out. If you put more dry brushing on and more shading, I think it may just make it almost a cartoonish look to it. So I'm going to avoid doing that. But the kind of weathering I want to do is actually the way we're going to cover up this pink blotch on that part and kind of clean up the lines on the edge of the board. I'm not going to fix this to a terrain tile at all. I'm just going to leave it as is, because these are exceptionally strong the way they are when they're completely, you know, have a bottom edge that's completely flat with just this one cutout. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some wood glue or some white glue, and we're going to apply essentially foliage. We're going to mask some of the bottom areas here with some foliage, little shrubs, what have you. And then we're actually going to carry some of the shrubs actually into vines, and they'll creep up the side of this. Not too hard, they're far, but you know, just to give it that look like it's been around for a while and the jungle's kind of growing into it. Okay? Alright, so let's get set up for that, and then we'll get back to it. Alright, we're all set. Okay, we got some good old school glue, PVA, and that's all you really need. Don't need to water it down or anything. Matter of fact, a little thicker is probably good. I use Woodland Scenics foam. This still in the bag is the actual clump foliage. They call it bushes, but it's ground foam that's still kind of together. Okay, so they actually represent bushes real well. But I also have jars of ground foam, finely ground foam. This is literally a fine foam. Okay. And a couple different colors. This is a dark green. Let's see. I'll show you here. Yeah, it's dark green. That's the color I'm mostly going to be using. with foam, ground foam, you can do this. You can do some texturing as well as shading. Now, texture is really what you're going for with the ground foam. But we're going to start by using the fine grain or fine ground foam, dark green. So I just kind of put it in the cap, give it something to work on, and I'm going to lay that down in a couple areas to kind of soften up the base and provide some transition points. Now what I'll end up doing is, back in the corners here, I'll put some shrubs to kind of hide the deep pockets, so to speak. But since I do know that I'm going to be working this vine here to cover the pink, let's go ahead and start with that. Very simple. Just this is going to be kind of thick, so you might want to leave your bottle laying on its side during this. That way it doesn't take as long to dispense. So just simply apply where you want it. And because it's thick, and you want it thick, it's going to stay put. Alright. Okay, so now, very simple. You just need to get yourself, you can use the X-Acto hobby knife if you want. You can actually use a number 17 as well, which is, let's see, one of these, flat-bladed. You can use that. And you can use it to scoop the foam. So here I'm going to set this up and then just basically pour it on. That's what you're going to do. And it's okay that you don't have, you're getting it all over the model, because you will eventually clean it off. Okay, probably blocked the view of doing that, but okay. Once you get it there, make sure you got it covered. And then what I like to do is take the same tool you used and just very, very gently just kind of pat it down to force it into the glue. Okay, and now you just got to leave that sit. Let it dry. But before you can actually knock any remainder off into your holding container. So there is the first, let me get this out of the way. There is the first vine going up the edge. Kind of looks a little bit blocky. So I'm thinking I'm going to actually expand that a little bit more. I don't like the way it looks. It's not done yet. Okay. So let's see, what else could I do? Oh yes, here's what I could do. Using the PVA. Come on, there we go. Yeah, I should have left this thing laying down on the side. Okay. Come down into here. This area down here is actually going to be shrub, bushes and such. And then I'm going to bring this up here. There we go. Okay, so let's do this again. Hopefully I'll show you this time. There we go. Now, since I know this is going to be shrubs near the bottom, I'm not going to be too careful with the ground foam near the bottom, but I definitely want it up near the top. Okay. Alrighty. Alright, there we go. That's a little better. Okay. Alright, now I'm going to do that around a few other areas. I haven't decided where yet, but I think like here where there's a lot of extra material that doesn't it stands away from. And actually this is pretty cool, because this is actually standing away from. It's going to give me some depth. So I'm going to leave this. I'm not going to shave this off. Let's see if we can get in there really close. Look at that. See how that's standing off from the edge? I'm going to leave it that way. And I'm going to actually use that to make more of a bushy ivy. I just don't have it a habit yet of putting the glue on its side. Alright, and I'm going to coat this area with the PVA. And then just kind of follow its, there's a contour that's already built into the structure. There we go, that'll work out perfectly. Okay. Now this, I'm just going to use my fingers because it's easy to get at. Now here I'm not going to press down because that would actually flatten out some of those areas that I wanted to kind of have come away from the model. So, alright, so we're going to let that dry because I don't want to risk messing that up right now. So, a few minutes, when that's all set, we'll come back to the next step. Okay, now at the next step, what you're going to do is you've got this edge around here that that's flat. In this particular case, there's areas that I can texture and color. And so that's what I'm going to do next. So I'm going to get rid of this sharp corner here, simply using these shears. There we go. Alright, much better. Okay, now this is a mud brick or mud structure, and so the ground it's come from should be the same color. So I don't want to completely obscure that edge, but I do want to kind of add some foliage. So what I'm going to do is kind of take a look at this section here, and I'm going to use two colors. I'm going to go ahead and use the dark green. I'm also going to use this light green. Now put a few patches of the white glue along the bottom. Alright, and then using a toothpick or even your blade, go ahead and just smear around a bit to get some extra surface area exposed. Alright, now this is you're not done with this. This is just your ground foam coloration. Now this is where it gets fun, because now you're going to alternate. You're going to take some of the ground foam and just kind of pile it on just some areas. Don't even need to be too perfect about it. Just throwing some right there. Now I'm going to need to get some of this dark green too. And then just place it on top of that. And in this case, you can place it over where you already have the light green, because what's going to happen is it's going to blend a little bit in there, and you'll eventually shake off all the stuff that isn't glued in. So at the end of this, it might even look like it's almost all green, even though it's not what it's going to end up looking like. Okay. Oh, right there. And always feel free to go back and forth between the two colors so you can get some mix. Okay? Alright, now once you have all the colors on, now again just a real light tap, because you're not trying to go with a dense coverage here though. Okay, once you do that, put away the ground foam you've already you put in your containers that for dispensing. Set those aside, and on your work area, I have a sheet of glass, so it's easier to clean up. You could have paper that you work on. Take it and just tap it up. Get rid of all that excess, both colors. All right. All right, now with all the stuff that's there, here's a quick tip for you. Take your, take a card or something, just collect it all together into a nice pile, and scrape it off into a separate container. This is a container I use. It's actually a lid of a spray paint can, and this collects all these leftovers. Because what I'll be able to do then is have a blend of foam, various colors, and textures. And actually, there's a few green stuff drillings in there, which are a light green. So again, looks like vegetation of various textures, and just kind of set that out to the side. All right, again, it's a matter of letting things dry somewhat. And now going in, and we're going to apply the actual bushes. Okay, so moving on to the next part. Now, as I was watching it dry, so to speak, I noticed the back looked kind of plain, so I went ahead and added an extra vine. Just kind of follow the pattern of some of the texture. We can't put that. So, all right, but now we are going to work on actual shrubbery. So again, I'm going to use the bushes from Woodland Scenes. You can use lichen, anything that you normally would do for bushes. Alright, so it's very easy. You're going to simply put your PVA down in what I would call puddles of PVA, and then find your clumps that you want to use. This one, I'm going to use this clump here. Put that in. Now you'll notice, hopefully you'll be able to see that the green is a little different in color. It's a little lighter, so it gives you some variety. Here, do more of the same. Actually, I'm going to bring this all the way across the front, because I want to put these all the way along the front. So now in this particular case, you don't worry if the you can see some of the PVA through that. That's okay, because it'll dry clear enough and it'll be disguised. And I like to push it in to make sure there's a really good bond. And here I wanted to put it at the base of where this ivy was growing. Not that it's part of the ivy, but I just wanted to give it that look that it's coming out of not just the ground, but a vegetation patch. Now, if you do have multiple colors of ground foam bushes, feel free to use them. They're not all going to be the same. And back here, I do want to put a couple. This one I want to make this one a little bit taller, so I'll place that one there. Now, my background is for scenery is in model railroading, and so unfortunately I tend to go for looks that may not be durable on the table. We'll find out. So that bush is going to be a little bit elevated. This one will just lay sideways there. And then here I'll throw, let's see, nice one here. Okay, just got to find the right bushes for that. That's a nice big one for that spot. Press it down, there we go. And then a smaller one for this. Okay, that's it. Okay, the last step for this particular model is to affix the hide panels, entry panels. Alright, I'm going to use a basic contact cement. Given this is a paper product, I don't think super glue is not going to hold up very, very well. On very porous materials like that, super glue is just not the way to go. This contact cement will work really, really well though. And so you simply apply it to the edge here. And it's going to hang down. And the way this is actually slanted, see if this shows up. You can see there's actually an angle, so this is going to hang down
and actually leave a gap. So I'm going to go ahead and apply this here. There. Now, put something underneath it just to keep it supported so it doesn't slide down. That should just about cover it. Okay, so we'll let that dry, and we should be good to go with that. Okay, so that's all there is to it. Nice simple structure, allowing you to kind of cover defects with some ivy. Entryway covered by a curtain. You can also leave it open if you really want to. Larger structures with more gaps on the side, you could actually build up rock formations to kind of block out what would be an opening that you don't really want. Lots of possibilities. There's a lot of material out there. Now, some of it is way too uniform. Some of it's way too rough. So, not every piece is going to be good, but give it a shot. Take a look at it if it's your kind of thing. Now, I might have mentioned in an earlier video about how I had seen something very, very similar in I haven't actually watched the video, but on Commissar Gamza's channel. Now that I've published this, I'm going to take a look at his video and see what the differences are. I've been wanting to do this one since March, so I wanted to make sure I focused on what I was trying to accomplish without being distracted, because I didn't want to, in my own mind, come up with this competition between his versus mine. It's not about that. I just have something I'm trying to go for, an effect I'm trying to create. This is how I went about and did it. So take a look. It's a great way to use some garbage. So don't throw it in the landfill. You end up reuse it. It's a great way to do it. All right. Hope you enjoyed this. Share, like, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next how-to video. Bye-bye.